Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new episode of the Right Info Podcast Show with your host Antoine speaking on this Sunday, January 21st, 2024. It's cold and breezy outside, not snowing that much, but it's still a little chilly. So I'm in the house right now, but later on I would have to go out to work and take care of a little business afterwards. I'm staying warm right now so far, so I might as well enjoy this warmth while I can before I leave out of here in a few hours. Just give you a nice little podcast topic to talk about today, and just got to eat some breakfast. It was nice. Didn't make nothing simple. Not simple, but nothing too big. Just had me a nice little bowl of cereal and some OJ. Wasn't too hungry. I ate dinner last night, a real nice dinner and stuff. It was pretty good. Stepped out, bought a couple of Polish sausages and some fries. Had that, and that's about it. So, with that being said, I want to talk about today's podcast topic on the show today, and it is, what invention would I uninvent if I could, and why? Now, I've often said to my friends, now quote, what would you do, or what would you think would be like living in a world without technology? Specifically smartphones, for example. Now, none of these friends of mine have answered this question. I think this is the case because, my generation has grown up in an era of unprecedented modernization, stuff that came out through the 70s and 80s and 90s and all that, and the 2000s. So, none of my peers, would imagine a world without the unlimited access to information at our fingertips. The stuff that we have now, we really wouldn't have had, we didn't have like 35, 40 something years ago when we was coming up. Now, if I could uninvent anything, it would be the smartphone. Now, the original intention was to foster connections between people, but this had the opposite effect. Now, I think that the modern cell phone has actually made people even more disconnected from one another because everybody has their phones nowadays. Like if you're at a party, for example, you're always standing around on your phone, not talking to anybody, just have your phone in your hand. I have to admit, I've done it myself. I've attended events where I have my phone in my hand and see what's going on, check the alerts, check the messages, take a call or whatever. But, things like that, you can't help it because if you get a call and it's an emergency, you got to answer it. If you get a message that's important, you got to answer that message. And, you have no other choice. I mean, you can either turn down the messages or the call or take it, depending on the importance of it. Now, I find it unsettling that many people prefer texting rather than speaking on the phone or communicating, face to face. Now, instead of focusing on the person in your presence, many of us are, just more interested in checking our emails and messages who aren't present, I just stated that. So basically, that is usual. That's not new. Now, it's not just teenagers who are, guilty of doing this, carrying this little thing out, having their phones in our fans. It's unusual to see them, having their phones not out because they have them out all the time. It's us as well as adults. We're out having our little thing, our little conversations. If we're out or breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or a date, or the movies, or the meeting, we have our tendency of having our phones out in our hands as a distraction. Not to distract ourselves from what's being talked about, but it's like addiction, like cigarette smoking, drinking, or, drug addiction or whatever. But it's mostly about phones. Now, I'll say personally, when it comes to me, I'm very controlled with my phone because I rarely check it unless it's important or it's an emergency. Yes, I do have social media. I have to have social media because of the apps that I have for my podcasts and my blogs. I have to write my blogs, deliver my podcast so people can get the information that they need. And that's why a reason I do that is a majority of it with my phone. I'll deliver my podcast through my phone and I write my blogs out on my iPad, my laptop, or my Chromebook or whatever I have. I'll write that out. But as far as my phone, that's what I do as far as carrying out my podcast is concerned. Now I know it can be a little disturbing for people to feel that they're not being paid attention to because you're on your phone, or if I'm on my phone, I know they would find it rude because I would find it rude as well if somebody was on their phone. And I wouldn't tell them, can you please put your phone down? I would just look at that person, um, letting them know that, I'm in your presence, I'm here. Or if they did it to me, that um, they're in my presence or whatever, I would be respectful enough to put my phone away, or they would be respectful enough to put theirs away. It's all about respecting, our presence, the respect of presence. If I'm on my phone and you find it disturbing, I'll put it up. If you're on yours and I find it disturbing, you put yours up. And we came here to do what we're supposed to do, have a conversation, talk, laugh, go out to breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or whatever, that sort of thing. Now, teenagers, they rarely do that, rarely. Excuse me. As far as putting their phones up, they gotta have them in their hand. The technology, like I said, the technology that they got now, we didn't have this technology 35, 40 something years ago. Well, 40 years ago, I was 7 going on 8 years old, back in, back in 84, back in 1984, I was 7 years old going on 8. And we didn't have this stuff back 40 something years ago. And that was really something. I mean, there were cell phones, but they were like the fat ones. The ones like a big old block or something. Or car phones. There was car phones back then, but they were not as advanced as they are now than they were years ago. So, I have friends that was on their phones and I wanted their attention, or sometimes I was on my phone, they wanted my attention. And, it was just an idea, a thought of respect, just if you're talking to somebody on the phone, at least have the common courtesy to let them know that you're with somebody. Okay, I'll let them know I'm with somebody and hang up. Or I do the same thing too. It's all about the respect of presence. That's what I call it, I respect your presence, you respect mine. And we can't let anything, or don't let anything come in between us. Any technological item or whatever. Whether it's a phone or an iPad or a computer or whatever it is. Let's focus on the matter at hand. Us being, talking to each other, communicating with each other. Do I support, the creation? I don't say support the creation. Did I ever like the creation of cell phone? Yes, I do. Would I ever invent it? I would invent it. I would invent the cell phone and see what it'd be like to have, certain communication face to face. But before cell phones, there were pagers. But I have to admit, I never had a pager. I admit this. Right? They call beepers or whatever. I never had a pager or a beeper, or what you called it back in the day. I never had one. I really didn't see the point of having one because I rarely contacted anybody. If I did, it was just through regular telephone, face to face or whatever, or letter writing or that sort of thing. So, having a cell phone and uninventing it, I wouldn't say it's not a bad idea, but then again, you have to ask the question yourself, if we didn't have cell phones, how would we communicate? Well, there's the old-fashioned thing of writing letters, paying a person a visit or whatever, or, that sort of thing. But since we have them, hey, it's good to have them because nowadays you can have access your email address or your whatever, your messages with the cell phone or whatever. Now, smartphones, they fall apart under like an iPhone. There's some Androids that are smartphone materialized, but I think the smartphone very much falls under the iPhone. And if I had the power to invent it, would I uninvent it? I didn't mean to say invent, I mean uninvent. If I had the power to uninvent it, I would, but then how would I try to put it back together? Why uninvent something that's already invented because it's going to be needed later on down the line? So I would do that. uninvent the smartphone, but it'll take me one hell of a long time to try to figure out how to put it back together because I don't have that technical skill or knowledge of uninventing anything, let alone a phone. Because I would have to have that, thought and idea and knowledge on how to do that, which I don't. I mean, only thing I'm good for is just like playing video games and stuff. Yes, I am a gamer. I admit that. I'm 47 going on 48 years old and I still play on the video game. People can call it big kid stuff, but it's something I like to do when I'm not doing nothing. Or, I'm like reading a book or whatever, writing a blog or delivering a podcast. Not to get off the topic of uninventing the smartphone thing, but just give you a nice little rundown on what I do, as far as spare time is concerned. And as far as the smartphone, the uninvention of it, I would, and then I wouldn't because I really wouldn't know how to put it back together. Like if I uninvented my phone right now, how the hell will I put it back together? I wouldn't know how. I'd have to look at the internet on how to put the phone together and then try to find out how the hell I took it apart. That'd be the crazy thing right there. So, that's what I would do as far as that's concerned. And this was going to be not a long-winded podcast, but a medium podcast on what I would do as far as if I had the power to uninvent something, that would be the smartphone. And since this Sunday and it's cold out and I'm really not going to be here too long because I'll be stepping out, heading off to work and stuff and other things. I just wanted to give the audience a little taste and touch, a view of what I would do if I had something to uninvent. I don't know why I keep saying invent. Uninvent. That was the topic. Uninvent the smartphone. That's what I would do. So, with that being said, I'm going to end this podcast on a positive note. I hope everybody is having a good Sunday or have a good Sunday and a good week and all. This is the 21st day of the new year. And with that being said, this is a news episode and the end of the episode of the Right Info Podcast Show, Season 2, Episode 4 by Antoine. And I will be delivering another podcast pretty soon. Everybody stay warm, take care, enjoy yourselves, enjoy the rest of y'all weekend and the rest of y'all week. Thank you all so much for listening. Bye-bye. Love you all.